please, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Fab, and how you got to where you are today?
That's a big loaded question. So I was born in Colombia, South America, in a city called Barranquilla, where Shakira and Sofia Vergara are from. Oh. So those are the two people that most people know. And then moved to the United States when I was 13. My parents thought it was the land of opportunity. 5 boys told us that here we could become anything we wanted to. So these are the first thing that I will give you. There's 3 things that they told us when we moved to the United States. And this is true for today. So I want you to write this down. The first one is you look for opportunity every day because opportunities are always around us. The problem is that people are too busy sometimes to look for them or even notice them. The second thing is that when an opportunity comes to you, you have to know that you're the person to execute it because 9 out of 10 people most likely will talk you out of doing it.
Yes.
And you have to expect that, you know, because an opportunity comes to you. It doesn't matter how far-fetched it could be. When an opportunity comes to you, when I wanted to go from becoming a neurosurgeon to a doctor of chiropractic, acupuncturist, nutritionist, energy medicine, holistic doctor, I had almost every single person I known up to that time try to talk me out of it. But in my heart, I kept saying, I want to be in prevention. I want to prevent people from getting sick. I don't want to just manage symptoms. And that was almost unheard of in the world of medicine that I was living in. And look at what happened. And in such a short amount of time, becoming such an influencer and also being indicted into the Wellness Revolutionaries Hall of Fame, which is probably the most prestigious wellness group in the world. So I want you to recognize it, understand that you're the one to deliver it. And lastly, our parents said to us, you have to take massive action. Nothing changes without action. So there's an idea that, you know, Napoleon Hill told us that everything begins with our thinking, but you have to understand that in order to transform that thinking into reality, you have to have action. And you get to select what activities you spend your time on. With the way that I've done it over the years, I interview, let's say I have an idea, right? I want to start a brand new business. I want to go into the cleaning business. So what I typically do, and this is something I learned many years ago, I identify the 3 most successful people in that industry. I tell them, and somehow you'll be surprised, the 6th degree of separation is much smaller than you think. If you start putting it out there to your friends, right? And you start acting and asking your friends, I want to meet so-and-so. It may not come you going directly to that source. It may come from 5 people below that are going to get you to that person. Like I never forget when 8 years ago, when I retired for the 2nd time, I wanted to meet Richard Branson and I never met Richard Branson. And then all of a sudden I'm in a meeting, a healthcare meeting here in Dallas with some of the 150 of the most powerful people. The vice president was here. And I was asked to speak to that group. And then somebody heard me in that group. And afterwards, he came to me and said, you may not remember me. This was 27 years later. But my name is Raymond. And I'm a medical doctor, but I'm also an attorney.
It's Friday, May 7th, 2027.
Can we get together and have lunch? So we had lunch 2 days later. And he was asking me what I wanted to do now that I retired. And I told him, I said, I want to be a serial entrepreneur. And I identified the top 3 people I wanted to meet, and Richard was one of them. He said, well, I happen to be an attorney for one of his foundations, and his mother and I are very good friends. Let me see if I can arrange a meeting. 2 weeks later, we're having dinner with Richard and his mother in LA. It was one of the most fascinating experiences of my life. So I want you to take action. So then from there, I became a doctor, had a practice for 10 years. Then I became president of a university. So I went from healthcare to education. And then I did that for 14 years. And then the last 8 years, I've been in the media. So I do television, radio, books, lecture every week, 70 times a year for the last 8 years, somewhere in the world. And became a best-selling author. I have 4 best-selling books. I just wrote my 5th one, and it's being sold right now. So that's a little bit about my background. So that was question number 1.
Well, it was funny.
Any questions?
That. It was so funny when you said about Richard Branson, because when you were before you even mentioned Richard, I said to Paul about the law of attraction and what you put out there and the opportunities. I stood on stage last year, and Brian, who was the last chap on, Brian Chittick from Cash FX, he heard me speak because I was on stage, and I turned around and said, I don't know when and I don't know how, but one day I'm going to meet Richard Branson, and Introbiz is going to do a networking event on Necker Island. Brian came over to me in the break and said, I know someone that's been there, Hannah Kathleen Hawkshaw. Yeah. I'll introduce you. The rest is history, because we then got introduced to Premier Live, and we went to Necker Island last December with Richard. And it was the most amazing experience for us too. So you're absolutely bang on about opportunities. Yeah. So apart from Richard's opportunity, what other major opportunity that you've had in your life that has been transformational for your business and your life?
Well, I've been very blessed because I always feel that I would attract the right people at the right time. I feel that every person is meaningful. I don't treat people differently because they have a title, they have power, they have whatever. And all of that began when I was 16 years old. I was involved in a robbery, and I was visiting my aunt and my uncle. And my brother and I were involved in that robbery. And 10 people robbed the house looking for a safe. And they were hitting my head, thinking that I knew where it was. So I tried to yell. They took my socks off and put them in my mouth. They tied me up. And then the neighbor, by some mercy, after probably about 45 minutes of this, heard the commotion, called the police. They fled. We ended up in the hospital. I was okay. My brother, they broke his head, 27 stitches, but he was alive. And that night, I realized at 16 years old that it could have been my last day. And I don't know if any of you have actually been close to dying, but it's revolutionary. And ever since that day, I have lived with the principle that I take every day like if it was my last day. I go to sleep the night before being grateful, not expecting to wake up the next day. But if I wake up the next day, my goodness, I go full force and I wake up grateful. And I already have my list of 5 things I learned from Brian Tracy. Of 70 years of teaching, Brian said the one thing, that if he had one thing to teach people, it would be that they rewrite their goals every day. Oh, wow. Not write their goals once, rewrite their goals every day. I learned that from him 25 years ago. So I write my 5 goals for the day. I do 5 because 5 is my favorite number. And I don't go to sleep until those 5 things are taken care of every single day. And those are what I call my priority list. And you have to make sure that part of that priority list is your self-care, because the day begins with you. So the first hour of the day, I begin with me, my physical body, my emotional body, and my spiritual body. I spend an hour, and that's how I prepare myself for contributing to the world. But you can't get up, rush out of bed, and expect to give a lot, because you will wear out. And the reason I've lasted over 35 years at this level is because every day I'm in training, like if I were an Olympic athlete, I'm in training to contribute, to serve at the highest level. And that takes actually effort, and it takes intention. So I've been blessed to have been surrounded by very influential people. And what I've learned about influential people is this: you have to treat them like regular people. Anytime you treat any celebrity like a celebrity, you will never get to know them as people. No. Because that's what most people do. So what I learned to do many years early on in my life is to see the child in a person. And I've been fortunate to meet presidents, vice presidents, the Pope. I spent a lot of time with John Paul, all of these people in my life, and I see the child in them. And what I learned is that when you see the child in the person, you see the most fragile entity of themselves, which is somebody that is human, somebody that doesn't have it all together, somebody that is imperfect, somebody that's still questioning themselves, even though the world looks at them like they have it all together. And that's been my secret in being able to formulate a lot of these relationships over the time.
Incredible.
Excellent. What would you say, Dr. Fab, has been one of your biggest obstacles you've had to overcome on your journey?
Well, I was asked to be president of a university when I was 33 years old. And I became the youngest president of a college or university in the whole United States. And I took it because I knew what to do. It was my alma mater. It was one of the most prestigious schools in healthcare in the country. And I just thought I would do it for 6 months. And I thought, okay, the board wants me to do it. I've supported the school for years. The founder was my mentor, one of my first mentors. So I wanted to do it for him because it was his legacy and I didn't want the legacy to go bankrupt. And I realized that when an opportunity comes, remember what my mom and my dad taught us, you cannot second guess yourself, even though you don't think you're ready. So I met with a dear friend of mine. As soon as I got the position, I never applied for it. They asked me to it. I met with my dear friend, John DeMartini. I think you guys have met John.
Yeah.
And John and I have been together for many years. And I called John and we met, and he says to me, you know, Fab, the one thing I've learned about leadership is that whoever has the greater level of certainty will always lead. Whoever has the greatest level of certainty will always lead. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what gender, what country, or what your past has been. It's all about the certainty level. So I came back home from that trip after meeting with him. And I realized that if I was going to do this, I had to do it my way. I couldn't do it the way my mentor did it. I couldn't do it the way other people did it. I had to find the best university president in me, even though I had no experience in education. And that's what I did. I started listening to my little voice inside, my inner wisdom, I call it. I started putting things in place, even though, you know, I wasn't sure. I had to make myself sure, because if I wasn't sure, then the people around me that were twice as old as me, have been in education for over 40 years, looking at this young kid with no educational background, and now is my boss with 400 employees, 3 different companies, no experience per se, and it worked. It worked, you know? And that's really what I've learned in that way as far as my biggest obstacle. I began to implement things, and this is what I did. I'm gonna give you this suggestion because it was the best way that I turned a business that was completely going bankrupt, losing $2 million a year for the last 3 years, and having 7 lawsuits against it. And the morale couldn't be lower. I went to my customer base and I asked them a question. And this is a great question to ask your customers. Where did I fail you? Where did we fail you to prepare you to success? And I assume already as the new leader that we have failed them. So what I got is I got 3 different things. After, I think it was 1,500 people came back in a survey. And the 3 things that came up were very clear. And I began to act on those 3 things. And because I acted on those 3 things, it didn't matter whether I agree upon them or not, it's their opinion. I acted on it. I communicated that to the whole following. People began to trust me.
Yeah.
Because you see, trust is the key factor in having a following. To sustain a following, they must trust you. You know, there's 3 things they tell you you must have to have a following. They must like you, they must know you, and they must trust you. But I always focus on the trust, because if you can get people to trust you, they will follow you until the end. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are today. Those customers will never, ever leave you. And within 1 year, we profited $700,000. We paid off the debt of $6 million, and we were able to begin to move forward. And we broke records in education with the team that we assembled. And I didn't have any background in education, but now they're still talking about the records that we created in education, which they haven't been broken still. And that's what I want to encourage you. I want you to trust in yourself. I want you to recognize that if you don't believe in you, what makes you think that other people will believe in you? If you don't invest in you, what makes you think that anybody else would invest in you? And those are the lessons that I've learned throughout my life.
But I think you've come from the attitude of serving, you know, and this is one thing that Sharon Lecter taught us, because Paul and I were mentored by Sharon Lecter, and she said, it's about, yeah, she's amazing. And, you know, that's one thing she said, if you learn nothing else from me, problems, you know, a business is all about solving a problem or serving a need, and you have to serve your clients, and your clients come first above everything. And, you know, we as a business are pleased that we're bringing people like yourself who are amazing onto this platform for our members through this current climate, you know, creating positivity, creating good messages so that they can, you know, hopefully improve on their businesses and relationships, you know?
You know, Albert Einstein was asked the question before he passed away, what is the meaning of life? And he said very quickly, the meaning of life is to be service of others. There's no greater contribution to life because your value comes from serving. If you're not making enough money, you have to ask yourself, am I serving enough? It's that simple. Your net worth is equally proportional to the value that you bring to others. You want to make more money? Increase your value. Increase the numbers of people that you provide value to. And if you follow that formula, you will always succeed financially.
Amazing. So how important do you think, obviously we're a networking organization based upon relationships, based upon knowing people, liking them, and obviously trust. How important has relationships been in your business and in your life over the years?
Well, relationships is, and I tell my kids, I have a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old, and I always tell them education is not where opportunity comes from. Because what happens is if you start evaluating how people end up in the positions they're in today, they have always end up in a position based on the relationships in their lives, right? Because it's not the education, because over 70% of the people out there are not doing what they went to school to do. Look at us, right? We have degrees in other things, but here we are doing something totally different that we don't even have a degree on. Well, that's really the reality of life. So what I've always taught them, and I've taught people over the years, is that pay close attention to your relationships, because all your business opportunities will come from the people in your life. And then I add a little bit more to it, which I learned from my dear friend Jim Brown many years ago, that the 5 people in your life that you surround yourself with will become the person that you are today. So you have to be very selective of who you spend time with, because no matter how many times you say to yourself, I will never end up like them, I will never do that, they will never say that about me, you will be very disappointed in life. So surround yourself with people that inspire you to be better than you are. So I have those people in my life. I have people like John Gray to teach me about personal relationships. Why? Because he's the #1 authority in relationship in the world. I have Dr. Phil, which is my client and my patient for many years. He teaches me about keeping people accountable, because that is what he's known for. He holds people accountable about, you know, not making excuses for the difficult lives that they have. You know, I have people like Brian Tracy whenever I need anything, or people like Don Miguel Ruiz that wrote the 4 Agreements. I mean, to have a conversation with Miguel about what life is all about, it is breathtaking, because the way he thinks about life is unlike anybody that I know. I have people like Patch Adams to tell me about how the healthcare system needs to be revamped. So whenever I get a little bit down, I call him and I say, Patch, what would you do in this case? Because he's been through hell and back in the healthcare industry, but he's still changing the way people look at how they should heal their bodies. So it's important that you surround yourself with the people that really you want to be like, and not surround yourself with people that drag you down, that steal your dreams, that all of a sudden keep making you feel like you have to go back to who you were 20 years ago, which is not who you are today, and definitely not who you want to be tomorrow.
We always say that, don't we, all the time? It's all about lifting you up and surrounding yourself with good people.
So what I learned in relationships, this is a very good thing. The key thing that I learned in relationships is that you must go into a relationship with a service attitude rather than a taker attitude. So a taker attitude is typically what 80% plus of the people do, which is, you know, I want to talk to you because you're going to help me get something that benefits me. So my formula, and the reason probably that I built such an amazing group of relationships, is because I go in with serving, right? If Paul calls me and say, hey, Fab, could you help me with this? Great. I don't need anything from Paul, but I know from that relationship, something great is going to come. I don't know what that is. I don't have to assume.
No.
From every relationship, you have to expect great things will come, because the natural law is that the more we serve, the more we receive. Now, the problem with people is that they have a problem receiving because of their low self-esteem. So they need to address those issues so they can receive more. Otherwise, they will spindle their wheels and they serve, and they become what I call martyrs rather than individuals that support the natural law. So I go into a relationship. So let's say Paul and I begin a new relationship. I listen more than talk. These are very critical that you do this. You listen more than talk. So I need to learn what's important to Paul. And I have to listen to not only his words, his body language, but also what he's not telling me. Because sometimes people are not very honest with each other, especially on a new relationship. And you have to go very attentively. So once I understand what's important to Paul, my mind spins and says, wow, what resources do I have to help support Paul achieve his dream much faster, to facilitate his dream much faster? And then I may call Paul and say, hey, Paul, I have so-and-so. I thought that this would maybe a good one. Do you mind if I introduce you? I think it'll be a great relationship. So then I start serving Paul without ever asking from Paul. But then what the natural law says is that all of a sudden Paul begins to realize, oh my gosh, Fab has helped me so much over the last 2 weeks. Absolutely. I need to do something for him. Absolutely. So then he forces Paul to start listening intently to me and say, what can I do for you, Fab, to reciprocate on what you have done for me? Yeah. And if you follow that formula, you will probably be right most of the time. And it's a very honest formula that works extremely well. So I need to be able to, and if you go into a business deal, let's say Paul and I decide to do a business together, my intention needs to be that I need to return Paul's investment threefold. One for Paul, for trusting in me, one for the business so it can continue to grow, and then the last third is for me. Yeah. And most people violate that all the time. They're looking for getting out their third first without contributing to the person that is giving them the opportunity, or perhaps the business that is allowing that opportunity to take place.
Absolutely.
And it is incredible. I've seen some of the guests you have on your podcasts and on TV and radio, and you surround yourself with some really fantastic global speakers, which is amazing. It just goes to show all those principles there. That's how you got those relationships with those people, because they get to know, like, and trust you. And likewise, you will help them, they'll help you. And that's how your network grows globally, not just locally. So, and I think, a lot of people that's online here tonight is trying to master that, is how do you become, growing your network locally, but how do you get it globally? And if you surround yourself with global speakers and global entrepreneurs, that's how your network grows.
So let me give you a simple history of how I done it. And this I learned from very powerful people like Oprah and many others. So I have found that there's different mediums out there that allows you to be influential, because the more influential you become, the larger your network will be. Your network comes primarily from the influence that you have. In order to be influential, right, they say you have to master whatever it is that you are an expert in. So many books say that you have to have at least 10,000 hours within that industry in order to become a master of that industry. And it's pretty similar. It's pretty good. And, we have a saying that it says that, most people don't realize that an overnight success is 10 to 20 years in the making, right? It's a very simple thing. And then we do that in television a lot. All of a sudden you hit it big in a big movie. Little do they know they spent 10 years sleeping in their car, making no money, borrowing money from everybody that they know. And all of a sudden now they're the biggest star in the world, right? So I think it's important to recognize that you need to be the master of whatever it is you want to do in life. Become the expert in it. And the way that I've done it is I write books, right? So I learned very early in my life that a book is one of the most credible, influential sources or mediums that you have out there. And in order to become a best-selling author, you have to really own your message. You have to solve that problem better than anyone else out there in a more unique way. So that way the publishers can say, yes, we're going to invest in you, and we're going to invest in making this book the bestseller that it's meant to be. So for instance, my first book was a book called Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul. And many of you know Jack and Mark wrote the Chicken Soup of the Soul series. They've sold over 600 million books and over 150 titles.
I have it.
And they came, so we were having dinner in Las Vegas, Mark and I. And Mark says to me, Fab, we've been thinking about writing a Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, but we can't find anybody to do it. We really want you to be the one. Now, here I am. English is my second language. I can't write for nothing, right? I can barely speak English. And my penmanship is worse than anybody. It's like really doctor's writing. I'm like, how can I write a book? But I understood something. You see, it shouldn't be about you writing a book or not writing a book. It's about solving a problem.
Yeah.
And the problem that the chiropractic profession had at that time was the fact that we couldn't do testimonials. It was illegal for doctors to promote testimonials of patients. So in this book, which is the biggest series of all times of what? Warm stories, I said, wow, what a beautiful medium to have chiropractic patients talk about what chiropractic did for them. How did it change their lives?
Yeah.
So I collected in the first month 6,000 patient stories. They were so beautiful. They were like miracles. We narrowed it down to over 100 stories, and we finished the book. Now, the interesting thing is we finished the book in 3 months, and now all of a sudden we have to sell the book, right? And I say to myself, oh, we're gonna be in the online and the stores. No, we couldn't put it online, and we couldn't put it in the stores because it was a specialty book from Chicken Soup. So they weren't gonna use the shelf in the bookstores for a specialty book for chiropractic when they could be doing a book about women's soul or golf soul or something else. So what I did is that all of a sudden I started getting very creative. And I started realizing we have 70,000 chiropractors. We have 35 million patients. If I can get every chiropractor to buy one, we can reach more people. So I created a whole program of how by giving this book to every new patient, you will get 6 referrals. And I sold 400,000 in 2 years, never taking it to the bookstore, never doing it online. Only in my seminars, which I had 7 seminars a year, in 14 seminars, we sold 400,000 books. And it became one of their biggest sensations for somebody that can't even write. So I want you to believe in your dreams. So book is one. And then I started doing media, because when you're on television, and I hate to say it, people view you as special. There's nothing special in people on television, I can tell you that. I'm around them all the time. But people perceive you as special, and that has influence. Now, if you do something good with that special, great. That's gonna be even more powerful. So I encourage everybody to become the media expert for television, no matter what your industry is. Get on television. Tell those newscasters that you have a great story to tell. Tell them you have a solution for whatever is relevant during the time, no matter what it is. Find a way to be relevant in what's happening in the news, and they will put you in there. And then the third one was public speaking. So I built a career in public speaking. I started with no one 8 years ago. I did 24 speeches my first year, 36 my second year, 54 my third year, and then I've been averaging 70 a year ever since my 5th year. So those are the 3 mediums that I have used the most to be able to build the biggest amount of relationship that I have right now. And your relationship capital is your biggest capital, more than money in the bank. Because I can run out of money in the bank, but I know people that have money, and if I ever need money, they're gonna invest in you. So work on your relationships, not your net worth in your bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Great advice.
And I'm gonna send you as a gift, because you've come on tonight, a copy of my book.
I love it.
Yeah, Master Networking, and it's all about building relationships. And I'm obviously on book number 2 at the moment. So in fact, today on our Inspirational Women of the World, Dawn obviously went on and launched the book club. That we're asking women to come and join us and write a book, because we want to empower women to actually create a book. And that's all exciting stuff at the moment, isn't it? So.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
So listen, thank you for answering our questions. And I'd like to ask the audience, if any of you got a question for Dr. Fab, please put in the chat, and we'll connect you. And I'm sure there's lots of people that want to ask Dr. Fab a question.
I'm sure. I think Matt Saltis, I know, would like to ask a question, wouldn't you, Matt? Over to you, Matt.
Oh, hey there. Sorry, can you see me? It's
Yeah,
been hard on there. Just been working away at the laptop, but such good advice. Can you hear me okay? Is that too loud?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. No, thanks. I was going to ask you actually, Dr. Fab, what was one of the most inspirational moments for you in terms of people who you've met in the past. Who's been one of the most inspiring people that you've got around, and what was the story about how you found contact with them?
So whenever 9/11 happened and the United States was attacked in New York, a dear friend of mine, Deepak Chopra, and Madonna and Ricky Martin decided to start a foundation to raise money to bring peace to the world. So they decided to invite 150 of the most influential people they knew into Puerto Rico to have a summit on how to bring peace to the world. And each one of us were asked to bring one solution. My solution as a healthcare provider is that I say that there could never be external peace without internal peace. And that my work was to try to bring people to have not only internal peace physically, but emotionally and spiritually, so they can then embrace external peace. And but anyway, so we all get there, and I get there the night before, and I get up early in the mornings to work out. So I'm getting dressed to work out, and I get a phone call from Caroline. Caroline is the CEO for Deepak, and Caroline says, "Oh, Fab, I'm so sorry to wake you so early." And I said, "No, it's okay. I just was getting ready for a run." We were starting at 8 o'clock that day. She says, "Well, I need a very special favor. One of our individuals that is going to be presenting this morning is not feeling well, just arrived by private jet. And could you please help me? He's in a lot of pain and he has to see you." So I said, "Sure, why don't you have him come to my room, or I can go to his room." So then within about 10 minutes, I get a knock on the door, and it's a Secret Service, and it's Al Gore. Al Gore was our vice president. And all of a sudden, they take me to his room, and Al can't even move. He was in so much pain. And he says to me, this is such a small world. I never met Al before this, but we knew of each other. He says to me, "You know, Fab, when Carolyn told me that you were here, because I asked if somebody could help me, I told her that I couldn't speak today. I wasn't going to be able to share my vision. And she said, why don't we get Dr. Fab to take care of you?" And his problem was a very severe back pain. He couldn't even bend up. So then I looked at him, and he says to me, "Well, one of my dear neighbors is one of your dear friends, is Naomi Judd, the actress. And Naomi and I known each other for many years. So Naomi has been telling him about me for years, and little did I know about that. So when she heard my name, he said, yes, I would definitely love to have to see him." So I evaluated him and I adjusted him, and 95% of his pain went away within 5 minutes. It was something crazy. So him and I had an exchange, and we had a conversation. And then all of a sudden I go for my run, I come back, take a shower, and I'm walking to where we're gonna meet all the 150 people. And Caroline comes to me and says, "Hey, Fab, come over here. Deepak wants you to sit in the front." So here I am sitting in Puerto Rico, and it's Deepak Chopra, Madonna on my right, Ricky Martin next to her, and all these presidents of countries, ambassadors, head of states, authors, actors, actresses, all of that. And we started the meeting, and little did I know, after Deepak and Ricky and Madonna started, that Al was going to be the first speaker. So Al was the first speaker sharing his vision for peace, and he spends 3 to 5 minutes thanking me in front of all these people because he wasn't going to be able to give this lecture, and had me stand up. Everybody applauded, and I sat back down. Then he went ahead and gave one of the most rustic presentations I've ever seen. The PowerPoint was not that great, but it was called The Unconventional Truth. That his vision for peace in the world was to take care of our environment. That if we don't take care of our environment, we cannot ever have true peace in the world. And that presentation, even as bad as it was, all of a sudden in the room, there was a publishing house that wanted to do his book, and there was a director that produced his video. And all of a sudden, that video and book became a reason for Al to earn the Nobel Prize win, right? For his effort. Became one of the biggest fundraisers for any causes, which were his concerts that he did all over the world at the same time. And I always think to myself, you know, isn't it amazing that maybe if I hadn't been there, maybe he would have had the guts to be able to say this. We would have never heard his vision. and he would have not become the icon in the environment that he has become. So to me, that's very touching because it makes me recognize that it's not about me, that I'm just an instrument for something much bigger. And I just have to be ready when I'm being called for duty. And you have to be ready because you never know when you're going to be called, and you never know who's going to call you. So be always ready.
That's it, absolutely. So I got two more questions. One from Carly, my beautiful daughter. So Carly, over to you, and then Sue Worrell.
Hi, thanks so much for coming on as well. It really, really inspired, I think, everyone this evening. So my question to you, it was something quite niche actually. Have you heard of a gentleman called Dr. Sebi? And if so, has he influenced you in any way?
No, I haven't.
Oh, right, okay. Okay. No, he's a holistic therapist. Yeah. I did some reading, on his work a little while ago. So I thought you might have been familiar with him, but
yeah. Send me his link and I'll look him up. But I'm always looking for, who's influencing out there and how they're influencing.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, I'll pop it up. But yeah, thank you anyway.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Sue Worrell.
Sue?
Oh,
I think you may be muted, Sue. You have to unmute yourself.
All right, I've unmuted you.
Okay.
She might be on.
Hi, sorry, it wasn't unmuted.
That's okay.
Hi, what an amazing talk. Absolutely fantastic. Really inspirational. I've written so much down. Brilliant. I'm a nutritionist. I'm passionate about health. I love chiropractic care. I have it regularly. I'm in my 70s, still practice, still love work, I exercise as much as I did in my 30s. And I'm forever grateful that I've got this health. But I have taken action to make sure I keep it. So my big question is, and I think about this a lot, is that I talk to people very often, and this happens over and over again. People come and they ask me a few questions, and I tell them that they need to take stock and look at their health, both physical and mental. And then they say, yes, but I'm busy now, whatever. And sometimes they come back to me, and I just think every time, if only you did that 4 years ago, if only you did that. So my wake-up call was when I was very young. I was only 18, and I was born with a huge hole in my heart. So I had an early wake-up call to look for health. But what do you say to people to make them take a look at their own health and well-being, and to stop just keeping going on treadmills or liking what they eat or what they do better? What do you say to them to make them stop and really take stock?
That's a great question, Sue, and thank you for that. I can tell you as a healthcare provider, for 10 years when I had my practice and I was seeing a lot of patients, I would ask a question from every new patient. Tell me the 3 things you value the most in your life. So I want you to write this down. Tell me the 3 things you value the most in your life. And what I noticed is that less than 3% put health as a value. And that was a big eye-opener for me because I had dedicated my life for the health of humanity, right? But that's not what they value. They value most of the time their physical appearance more than their health. They value their vacation more than their health. They value their Jimmy Choo's shoes more than their health. They value their big screen TVs more than their health. So that was a big challenge. So this is what I've learned, and it's worked beautifully all over the years. I realized that if I can communicate to them in their values, and I can show them how my value supports their value, then they will pay attention to what you have to offer. So I give you an example. I have a lady that I had as a patient. I knew her for 5 years. She was part of my club, and she loved to play golf. She was a big golfer. And for 5 years, she kept saying she was going to come in because she had back pain. She never came in. One day she called me and she said, I need to come in today. Can you please see me? So we saw her, we examined her. And as I was meeting with her, I said, why now? 5 years ago, I've been telling you this will help you. He said, I'm embarrassed to tell you. He said, I prepay for a 3-day outing with my girlfriends to play golf for 3 days, 36 holes a day for 3 days, $7,000. and they won't refund me if I don't go, and my back is killing me, and it's in a week. I need you. So I said, perfect. And what I've learned is that from then on, I never spoke with her about health. I spoke with her about golf. Do you realize that? How would you like if I can help you become a better golfer? What is the biggest challenge that most golfers have? Oh, we have to quit because our back hurts. Well, do you realize that the swing is not a natural movement? That's going to cause spasms. That's going to cause tear in the disc. That's going to cause degeneration in the bone, you know? But if you maintain yourself and be proactive, you can play as golf as long as you want to, because that's what we do with the pro golfers. We keep them in line, aligned, so they can be playing golf. So I started working with that. And because of that, she became one of my best patients, because I related her value of golf into why she needed to become a patient of mine. And I do that all the time whenever I meet somebody.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I've put the thoughts down already. Brilliant. Thank you.
Great advice.
And I think Matt Saltis has got another question. Go on, Matt,
Okay.
you can ask the question.
Sorry, I was just commenting on Dr. Fab's answer there. I just thought that was so good. The question around what are your top 3 values, and why. I just think that's such a brilliant way to sell authentically and just align people with the logical next step, which is hopefully that you can help them. You know, if you know that you've got a product or a service that's going to truly benefit them, then what a better way to just lead people forwards.
And the other thing that I would say to add to that is lead by example. You know, I learned from one of my mentors many years ago that the greatest salesman in the world is the person that leaves their message, right? So leave your message. No matter what industry you're in, become a user, become a proponent, become an active entity within that particular service or product. And that way, all of a sudden, people can then recognize the value of it, because the more you use it, the more you take it, the more you're going to recognize the value. And that is what we call the non-physical communication. You know, our communication is only 15% on average verbal. Everything else is your body language, your tonicity, the way that you come across. And those are the ones that most people don't pay any attention to. They want to be so perfect. Like a lot of times I meet speakers that write down their speech, right? And they want to be perfect in their speech. And do you realize, I tell them, do you realize that only 15% of what you're saying they're going to listen to? What is your body language? What is your tonicity? If you read every word, I'm not going to connect with you. So why don't you tell me a story in the beginning that connects me with you right from the get-go? Why don't you break it apart and ask me a question in between to engage me? You know, those are the best speakers in the world. It's not the ones that read it perfectly and tell you everything you want to hear. It's the ones that connect with you from a feeling base, not a word base, a feeling base. So when you can turn your words into emotions,
Yes.
those are the ones that are going to connect with you long term. And those are the ones that are going to purchase from you.
Absolutely. And Sheena from Bahamas, we've got a beautiful girl online tonight. She does a lot for charity. She's a very giving person. And I met her online this week and invited her on this evening. So Sheena, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. Hi again, Dr. Fab. I just have a question on one of your pointer. When you first began, you spoke about opportunity. Number 2 stated when opportunities are brought forth, we need to grasp it. But at the same time, throughout your experiences and life and all of your businesses and teaching and in health, when you're brought forth to these opportunities, and sometimes I find that my mind hinders me when I have obvious opportunities and self-doubt, you know, and the risk factor and failure and everything. How do you challenge yourself to grasp those opportunities, to not let them, you know, to leave without you exploring them?
Great question. Thank you for asking that, Sheena. And one of the things that I would tell you is what hinders us the most a lot of times is our self-worth. So you need to go back and reprogram yourself from the people that have maybe told you, as a woman, you will never have your own business. As a woman, you will never go to college. As a woman, you can never do this. You know, whatever those limitations of beliefs were in your early childhood, especially from ages 0 to 5, those were the ones that were the most impressionable. So you have to really do some work. You have to go back and ask yourself the questions, why not? Why not? I mean, if you look around, we have seen people that have gone from homeless to millionaires in less than a year, people that have gone from not knowing anybody to become very resourceful in a short amount of time, people that had no money, but then all of a sudden they can start their own business, right? Because they found people that were willing to invest in them. So what I ask myself is, once I identify that limitation, I work very hard in changing them. So how do I change them? I surround myself with people that believe in me. Sometimes somebody else's belief in you is what you need to get out of that funk, right? Many times I found people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So I have to attach my belief to theirs because my own belief was, there's no way I can do this, right? But I believed in them, so I get out of my comfort zone and believed in them. The second thing is I do affirmations. Affirmations by science have been proven to be able to reshape our neurons. And so the way you do affirmations today is a little different than the way we did them in the past, where we just repeat. So let's say that you say something like, I'm never gonna be a millionaire. You know, you say, I am a millionaire, right? That's your affirmation. So it's the opposite of whatever your limiting belief. But then what we learn in the new science today, because of a science called neuroplasticity in brain science, the neuroplasticity teaches us that when you say it, it's important. And you say it with conviction, right? I am a millionaire. You always do it on the present tense. But now you close your eyes. And for 5 minutes, you're going to get into the emotions, the feelings of how would you feel if you were already a millionaire? If I deposit $5 million in your bank account, how would you feel? Would you feel more confident? Would you feel sexier, right? Would you feel more secure about taking an action step that you've been hesitating on because of the fear of losing the little you have? Would you walk a little bit more? Would you talk with more certainty? Would you be less afraid to tell people your dreams? And once you stay there for 5 minutes, all of a sudden we have proven now, your neural pathways begin to shape in and destroy the old beliefs, and the new beliefs begin to formulate in your brain. It's the most fascinating thing we've seen in science. So we can actually change the patterns that got us to our reality so we can become who we were destined to become. Not who we are today, but who we were destined to become. So those are two things that I do myself that really work.
Wow.
Thank you. That was awesome. Wow, great advice.
I want to ask one more question before we finish up, because I know Dr. Fab is very busy.
I know we're going to be here all night. Come on. Don't be telling people.
Anybody else? Speak up now, forever hold your peace. No? Oh, they're all gone shy. Oh my God, Dr. Fab, that was absolutely awesome. Really was awesome.
Oh, we got one question.
Go on, go Paul.
Paul?
Yeah, I would just like to ask, hi Dr. Fab, that someone in your position who's achieved so much in many different fields, and like say you've done so much and you're working hard and all that lot. Have you got two goals that you can say that you're actually personally or business-wise that you'd like to achieve from where you are now? Like, have you got something that you personally may be after or would like to better yourself?
So there's two primarily that I've been wrestling with. I made the commitment to move in that direction, especially during this COVID-19, because I've had time to think, and especially because a fourth of my schedule just got emptied because of the speeches that I was given. So there's no speeches until December. So everything got canceled or postponed. So the first one is I've been mentoring people for 4 years, but I only kept it to 25 people. And we have had so many amazing changes in these people. And I bring them, all of my celebrity friends, to be my mentors to them. And that's one of the things that I do as a gift, to pass my resources, my people. And in that mentoring program, the reason I never took it more than that is because I didn't have the time. So for the last month and a half, I've been working, putting all my content in an infrastructure what will allow me to mentor more people at whatever level they want to mentor. And I realized that mentoring is really important because I can only do so much by myself. But if I can build, right? If I can build an army of people to go out there and influence the world more than I can by myself, then that will be worth doing. So that's one thing. And the second one is that I've been approached many years to do my own TV show. I'm the health expert for the news. So I do all the major shows like Dr. Phil, The Doctors, CBS, ABC, Fox News. I've been Fox News health expert for 8 years now. And now for the first time, I realized that, you know what? I don't need to be afraid to do my own show. I just didn't want to be confined to one show. But I realized that I need to build my following and I need to be my own voice. And sometimes when I go to somebody else's platform, I can impact for the short period of time. But imagine if I was able to do that on a daily basis with millions of people.
Yeah.
So everything I do is about impacting more people. That's my driving factor. It's not, I never have had money as my driving factor because I realize that money is a byproduct of your service. So focus on your service, the money will come.
That's what we
and make sure that you're doing something you're passionate about. I've gone through 3 different careers, not because I wanted to. It's just my passion changed. My passion changed from healthcare to education to entertainment. And in entertainment, I'm reaching 5 million people on average every week, which I was never doing that as a healthcare provider or as an educator. So it's always about impacting people. So now if I can go from 5 million to maybe 50 million a week, then that's something that I could look forward to. And that's the reason, but you have to get yourself out of your way because we're our biggest limiting factors. We are our biggest limiting factor. And the day we recognize that is the day we stop blaming others for our own insecurities, our own realities, and we take responsibility. And responsibility to me is only the ability to respond in a constructive way instead of as a victim. When you take responsibility for whatever's going on in your life, including this period of time, and you realize I've been given a gift to rethink my business, to redo my life, to become the person I was destined to be, not the person I'm currently looking in the mirror today, that's responsibility because you're taking ownership. You're not blaming anybody else. You're taking ownership. You're not waiting for the board to open. You're opening the world right now with what you're doing. I'm reaching more people right now than I was reaching before this because I'm working harder than ever. But that's because I took responsibility not to sit around until something opens up, until the prime minister, the president, the WHO, whoever tells me it's okay, because I know I cannot let anyone else determine my destiny. No one defines me but me. And that's something that I learned at a very young age. And that's a very big thing to swallow. But when you get that, all of a sudden you feel so empowered that nothing stops you from your dreams. And that's really what life is about.
Absolutely. And, it's been amazing having you on. What can we do for you now? Because you've taken your time today. I'm going to send you my gift of my book. So I will take your address afterwards or maybe speak to Paul later or after the call. Because I'd like to send that as a thank you for coming on. But also, what else can we do for you? So with regards to your mentoring, maybe we can get that out there to our tribe of people for you.
Yeah, if you go to my website, dr.fabmancini.com, in my website, you get resources. So if you sign up there, you get so many resources to help you be able to become a better person, to be healthier, whatever resource you want. I'm actually, by next week, you will have so many more than you currently have there now, because I've been adding hundreds and hundreds of resources. But the one thing that I would ask you to do is that if you're not willing to step up and truly become the person you were destined to be for yourself, do it for me. Do it for me because I believe in you. My dear friend Les Brown always says, you have greatness within you. All of us have greatness within us.
Absolutely.
All of us are meant to be far more than what we're currently being. And the day you give yourself permission to be more is the day that you will be more. So I'm asking you, if you're not willing to do it for you, would you do it for me? Because I believe in you. And I know they believe in you, right? You wouldn't be here if you didn't have somebody that believes in you. So do it. That's all. Just do it.
Excellent.
Wow.
Well, it's an incredible, the hours just flown by. I knew it would be. It's just like, wow, where's that hour gone? And incredible. And
You truly are an amazing guy.
And I tell you what, let me just show you all the little golden nuggets.
So let me give you a tip. So as you know, attending for over 35 years personal development events and investing in me, I learned one lesson. I write notes just like that of something that inspires me to do something different, right? So I don't write necessarily what the speaker says. I write down what I'm gonna do based on what I heard.
Yeah.
So I write action steps. And then I take those action steps and I put them in my to-do list for the week, for the month, and I add them in my schedule. So those are things now that I'm committed of doing. And I learned in my life that by doing, I can advance myself faster than just by rereading my notes. Because you can't do it based on my words, you have to do it based on your actions.
Yes.
So act on them will be my greatest suggestion to you.
Absolutely. And it's like they say, knowledge is power, but it's what you do with that knowledge, isn't it? And you have to act on things.
Huge.
I obviously discussed the other day, so.
So I'm sure everyone online here is being blown away. Before you came back on, I said people who's on tonight are going to walk away with a stack of golden nuggets and business tips and entrepreneurial stories, and you lived up to it. And obviously, can't thank you enough. So incredible. Thank you for your time. We've had a brilliant session today. It's gone so quick, and we want to thank you for giving up your time today and sharing your expertise and what you do. And you are truly, true gentleman, and it's an honor to know you. And thank you for giving your time up for tonight, Dr. Fab. So really appreciate it.
But as I say, I need that address off you so I can send you the book.
Yes.
It's going up.
I will. Yeah, just send me an email and I'll email it to you or text you, whatever. And I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing. I want you to know that in my life, I learned that I will never achieve my dreams by myself. The reason that you said why networking is so important is because networking is how you achieve your dreams. No one can fully realize themselves by themselves. We all need each other. And the more we support one another, the more that we can realize dreams for everyone. And that's something I learned over the years. So thank you for the work that you do, for putting together this network that is supporting one another and recognizing that they're not alone in this journey. They got a support system that they can tap into anytime they get uncertain, they get questioned, they get fearful, they get depressed, they get anxious. They got somebody to go to and find that strength from each other. And I'm telling you, nothing will stop you.
No, and we've got a great tribe of people, everyone online here this evening. They're all fabulous. So I hope you've all enjoyed this evening.
And can everyone online here just give...
I'm going to unmute you. I'll mute everyone so we can clap and cheer.
Can you give a big round of applause for Dr. Fab?
Hang on, I'm just going to do that again. Yeah, keep clapping.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Dr. Fab. It's been amazing. It's an absolute pleasure to have on the show.
Thank you.
So I'm just